This is the really nice BSA that I just had the head off of and just put the head back onto. And it's sitting here, and I'm getting ready to put the carburetors on it when I just found some problems with the carburetor that I thought I'd take a video and talk about why they're problems and frankly why they should be replaced. This is a 1968 bike and it has 68 carburetors on it. So let's go over to the other desk and talk about carburetors. These are the carbs off that Beezer, and they're old. They're 68 version because you can tell real quick by the pilot jet being built into the float area rather than being pressed into the body as they did in the later models. They changed somewhere in the middle of 1968 from these external pilot jets to internal pilot jets. So these carbs are pre-change in 68 or earlier, early 68 or earlier. Also in these carbs, they have the old-fashioned plastic floats. This is hollow. They tend to break along the seam and suck in, take in gasoline, and then sink. So the floats don't float. This is the new style. It's solid and has a metal tab that's adjustable. And it doesn't sink because it's solid something plastic. Also, the floats bowls on this carb don't have the removable drain plug, which is quite handy. So, those are differences that come to me on the top of my head of these versus the later models. But the real problem, I'm going to hand off the camera now and I'll show you the real problem with these carbs. Basically, they've been over-tightened during installation at previous times. Kevin, you want to take that? I went to drop the float in. When we pulled the floats out, we found they were very sticky. They came out really difficult. So I polished the float and I polished the throat and went to put it in. And these floats each go in about halfway and start sticking. And at this point right here, I can't even really push it in. And if I do, then I can barely get it out. Now, I could keep polishing and sanding on this slide and polishing and sanding on the inside of the throat, but it's not a good idea because the reason that it sticks, let me push it down here far enough, and we're going to do a little zooming here. And if you can zoom in on that, Kevin, I'll use this as a pointer. Look at the gap over here versus right here. The whole body of this carburetor is out around. And it's out around because when it's been installed in the past, people have over-tightened the installation bolts, the mounting bolts, and warped this area, which then warps the whole body of the carburetor. There's nothing to do with this carburetor to solve that problem except more flattening, which is what I just tried. This one's really bad. You can see that that's just not flat. Okay? So to keep grinding out the body and polishing down the slides in order to make it slide, making the slide slide, the result would be a slide that rattles around there while it's running, which would affect the running of the bike. So these bodies, feel how it goes past that spot? Now it slides up and down inside, but if you were going down the road running in mid-range and you suddenly gave it a lot of throttle to pass that truck, wham, pulled it up here, and it's stuck, you are now at full throttle till the end of your ride or your life, whichever comes sooner, because the throttle's stuck wide open. And that's a bad thing. So pulling that out, let's talk about the needles. These needles wear because they're down into this assembly and they rattle around. I should take that out, but I'm not going to. Anyway, they come down here and they rest inside this assembly and they vibrate as they're used just by the bike running. This bike, I've tried to clean this one up, but if you'll zoom in here, you'll see this wear area right here. First of all, that line where it sits, right there. And if you could run your fingers down it, you would feel a worn spot right here, like a throat. So these needles definitely are worn. So I haven't cleaned this one up. You can see the wear spot right there. And maybe if you look at that area, you can actually see the wear on it as I rotate it. So the needles are worn. Bottom line, the bodies are worn, the needles are worn, the floats are obsolete, the float bowls don't have drains. There are so many problems to fix on these bikes that replacement parts and labor would exceed the cost of 2 new Premier carburetors. And by the way, the Premier carburetors are really, really good. They look just like this. They're reproducing them. They use the better float. They use a better slide. They put the pilot jet is removable for cleaning, and they're worth their weight in gold. The price is finally coming down. For a while, Amel wasn't shipping because of some sort of internal problems, probably linked to linked to COVID, but they're back, they're available now. And the price has come down from obscene to only ridiculous. So I'm going to suggest to the client that we buy him 2 new Premier carburetors and put them on his bike, because it'll make it run better, start better, and possibly save his life in a high-speed situation. So that was fun talking about one last thing. Let me show you something here. Come on over and zoom in on this, Kevin. This is a neat gas line setup. It's similar to what I do, except these T-clips, key junction blocks right here, these T-fittings, thank you. They're made out of plastic. And that's dangerous. I was riding my Norton, which had the original plastic T-fittings in it, and one of them broke, and gasoline spewed out of the line all over the rear tire, and the bike went squirrely on me because I was riding on gasoline. And it was an exciting situation by the time I got to this side of the road. So these plastic T's will break. So I'm going to replace these with brass T's, just for safety's sake, before I put the new carburetors on. And that's today's discussion on Amel carburetors. I hope you enjoyed it. It was fun.